Welcome to another episode of War Hero to Superhero, helping military veterans and first responders transform their lives from the bedroom to the boardroom. I am Daniel Faust, and this is Speedy Michelle Faust.
Because I had worn this awesome green shirt the whole day, and it didn't occur to me that I basically was wearing a functional green screen. So I just had to do a dash upstairs to throw on another shirt. So I would have been all boardroom.
And that's what we're jumping into, the digital boardroom. So it would have worked out perfect. So thank you for going over and joining. If you never joined us before, War Hero to Superhero helps military veterans and first responders transform their lives from the bedroom to the boardroom. And this week we are back in the boardroom. And next week we'll be doing interviews. So we'll be sending out. So if you are a military veteran or first responder that has transformed your life from War Hero to Superhero, and you are influencing others to transform their lives, we'd love to have you on as a guest. Maybe Michelle will do an interview. And I say maybe, so we'll see what happens.
I'll consider it.
She will consider it. So December of 2027. No, I'm kidding. All right. So in this digital world, we're jumping into the topic about rewrite your story. We've been talking about that all month, and we're going to talk about how to transform your life into the digital world and building trust in the digital world. And the digital world is loving to stay. And I did not type that in right. So the digital world is going to stay, and we're going to have to learn to love it. So we'll work with our digital errors. And our relationships are becoming more global. If you remember 10, 15 years ago, if you knew someone that was from a foreign country, that was foreign to most people, unless you were in business in the sense of you were traveling across the world. Nowadays, you can know somebody on VR. We know people in VR. We know people that we work in business. COVID has gone over and expanded us to go over and to connect with multiple people. We connected with multiple people in Canada and the USA and all those places. So places you would never connect. It's like, I live where? Like I'm in the United States, or I live where? Overseas. And it's becoming more common. So the question of the matter is, especially going over and working in a digital boardroom, either built by a corporation or you just started your own business, how do you build trust with those virtual workers, your colleagues, your friends, and also those bosses that you're working from through this world of looking at the camera at all times? Oh, scary, isn't it? So we're going to go over some tips. So, Michelle, do you want me to go over them all? Do you want to share where you're at? Just want to see where you're at?
I just let you go over them all.
All right. So I'm going over them all. So if you hate my voice, just go over and send a comment, and my wife will then talk. So, all right. So the first one I'm going to talk about, know thyself first. If you don't know yourself and you're just surviving at work and always in the desk world, then it's going to be really difficult to work in a digital world of collaboration. Are you the person that's short in the email? Are you the person on the Zoom that doesn't chat up until you go over? Or are you the person always chatting up 3 or 4 paragraphs in an email and always making those phone calls and always needing that socialization? Because the digital world can be either very overwhelming or very lonely. If you're a person like me, you're like, I crave relationships.
I'm happy.
And person like my wife is like, I don't need anybody.
Extrovert, introvert.
You got that right.
Working online is a dream for me because I don't interact with really anybody. So
for me, it's an absolute nightmare. So you got to know yourself first. So maybe you're considering that the digital world is not for you, and you might need to go find some of those jobs that are hands-on that keeps you COVID safe and is a baller. Or maybe you go find out that you can be a freelancer online and everything else. So knowing yourself first is most important. Extrovert, introvert, things of that nature. You got to understand yourself, because if you don't understand yourself, the next one's going to be even harder. We're going to go jump into knowing your team members. I work with a crew of 4 people at night on one job. And then during the week, I go work with 10 to 15 people hybridly, either through the phone or the email and everything else. And then I have 650 people during the day that could go down to those 10 or 11 people. So I really got to know those 10 or 11 people really well. What goes over and ticks, what goes over and doesn't tick, what go over they understand and not understand. Like when I work with my wife, very much details. I got to give her time to go over and to give those details. But we also have to know each other well enough to say kindly, hey, I love your details, but could you land the plane because I'm getting lost? and you have the right way to say it and be like, just shut up and give me the answer.
That's not going well.
That usually doesn't go over and work, because if we don't know our teammates, they're probably not doing it to be malicious. They're not doing it to go over and be offensive, not trying to go over and to annoy you. They're probably just, this is how they're wired. So are they more extroverted? Are they more introverted? Are they more task oriented? Are they more people oriented? Highly recommend you to take a DISC assessment. We offer those. So if you're ever looking for that, you can always, after your 20-minute free consultation, you can connect with us and we can do that DISC assessment, or the Myers-Briggs type indicator, or whatever assessment you feel comfortable with, and go over and talk about that. Because definitely now in the virtual world, we lose a lot of things. So first off, if it's on the phone, you're losing that body language. You don't have it. So 55% you're not going over and seeing. And let's say you're going over and using text. What usually happens in text? What do we interpret? So Michelle, would you know what we interpret on text?
Just the text. You don't hear tone or inflection or any of that, and you lose so much in the communication. I mean, we used to go back and forth arguing on the text message, and those are like the worst arguments, because we just go back and forth and I can't hear his heart, he's not hearing my heart. It's just straight words, and it is just the worst way to communicate.
Yeah,
to be honest, it is not effective.
We have gone over and done that for years. How many people have been ghosted in relationships, leaving jobs and things of that nature? Assuming 82% on the studies is tone, but it's inferred tone and assuming where we're at emotionally. So they could be something neutral and you're like, that son of a. I should have did a beat, but I don't have those functions yet.
Yes.
So yes.
Program.
Yes.
We
program.
will have that.
We need a beat button,
We'll have a beat button.
Yes. We'll always be TV 14 and below, but you'll understand if we went TV MA in the sense for emphasis. So, but knowing your team members, and text does not go over and help in a sense of teammates unless you have that relationship. And now when you go on the virtual side and actually do the video, definitely got to know, because you might not see everything. And also there's a lot of distractions. Is my teammate an kitty person?
Teammate just put his hand in my face.
Sorry, I'm still learning those things.
I know.
So this teammate doesn't know how to do this that often. So this teammate hasn't.
Well, this teammate is such a hand talker that he is so expressive. This word.
Exactly.
Hands.
So
I'm not.
Recommended not to do that in the boardroom unless your
we're
boardroom just suits you.
We're not used to. I mean, we're getting used to doing this together. He's tried to get me to do this for months,
years,
not the past years. So he wants me here.
2018.
But then when he's going like this, he forgets I'm here.
In 2020.
So
I mean, that's 2020.
2020.
It's 2020. 2020, same thing. It's okay. So know your teammates, those little idiosyncrasies. But how do you go over and get to know your teammates? We're going to expand on that too, because that's going to help you in a virtual world, is set and share common goals. So I work in technical director in one job at night. During the morning, I work as a group training manager. So common goals need to be gone over and set. You try to go work with those people to share and set those goals, because if you set them in a box and say like, oh, I need this by Wednesday and everything else, and half the people are too busy, overloaded, don't have the technological things to set themselves up for success, or they don't even have, let's say, logins or the time, or it's differentials and whatnot. If you're not sharing those common goals and setting them together, that brings a lot more stress in the digital world. Me and Michelle, just even from business partners, because again, we're like in 3 different ventures. We're here at War Hero Superhero. We're working a thing in the night, which is still under development. So once we get that solidified, we'll share that with you. And then during the day, working as a group training manager. So when we work together and set common goals, we're in the bedroom and we're in the living room on a constant basis.
It's hard to separate the two when you're working together synergistically, and the conversations legitimately. It's not we're trying to talk shop, but it's just we're so vested and so interested that it's kind of just comes out, and it becomes kind of a struggle in a sense to box one here and then use the other one. But I mean, it's working for us, at least for this season. And
it's going to be more difficult keeping it in the boardroom because you might not have those relationships. It's even harder if you don't have those relationships. It might be easier, but it might be harder because you don't know where that person resonates. So you need to really come together to say, set and share common goals. Just because you're an administrator of a program like I am during the day, and then during the night, I am a director of of a digital movement and whatnot during the night and growing, we still have to go over and figure out if those goals work the rest for those people at night, me and Michelle throughout the entire day, and then also the people I work with during the day. So
yeah, and on that same line, like knowing where your partner or spouse sits on that thing, because if even if you guys work together, it's not a free pass to just talk shop all the day and all the night long. I mean, it has to be an agreement between each other that, okay, yes, we can do this. Because there's been times when my husband will just keep going on and going on and going on. And I'm like, I literally cannot take one more minute of you talking about work.
In a little nicer way to deliver it, which we'll talk about in a few minutes.
I am very blunt when it comes to things.
And that's where knowing thyself
Exactly.
and also knowing your teammates is going to go be helpful. So going from there, we're going to jump into transparent and consistent
this is a really
communication.
good one.
So transparent is not a word we usually talk about often. In our nighttime business that we go over and do, that is actually one of our core values is transparency, legacy, and community.
It's better to be honest about where you are in your business, what you are on your projects, your work, than to sugarcoat stuff and give a misrepresentation of what is actually there, because bad things happen when people are given information and facts that don't come back as correct, and it's not consistent.
And you want to go over on a level of that. So that's honesty, which transparency is a hybrid of honesty and openness, while watching my hands. And coming together and knowing where to share.
You look like you got shackles.
There's shackles. So they are. I mean, sometimes we think transparency is a shackle because it's not only saying, did you go over and count the toilet paper if you work in a janitorial closet, compared to going over and say, share with me how your day is or what your struggles at work. Transparency is combining both, honest and open. And I'm going to give one TV example and then we'll jump in. So if you ever watch Smallville, 2001 to 2011, fantastic. Lana Lane loved Clark Kent. You see it through season 1 until about season 6. But what happened in season 1 to season 3, which she asked on a consistent basis, like, Clark, I want you to be honest with me. She was never asking honest, because only if she asked a direct question, Clark, where are you at? Where were you at this time? And he circumvented the question. He was lying. He was, roundabout Barack Obama. I love that reference. And whatever reference you want to go over and use. But what really she wanted is openness, to share his heart, to share his struggles, to share his burden. Transparency is both honest and open. So it's definitely in the digital world, because you don't have that time to go connect face to face. You definitely have to go do that. And it's not an easy thing to go and do. The consistency is based on the people you're working with. So you have to come to a team goal and say those consistencies, like, hey, do we need to communicate every day? Do we need to communicate every week?
Yeah, because of your team is going to be based upon trust, especially if you're only communicating and doing business over a virtual format. If you don't have trust in your business and you can't rely on your coworkers or bosses to give you consistent information, your business is going to have a lot of problems.
Definitely so. Definitely so. We're going to go over a few more topics and then we're going to bounce out.
Yep.
So let's go into this. Here's a heavy one. Use your webcam. Now, I don't recommend using your webcam for every single meeting, but with your core people that you're working with each and every, people that are in your shop, people that you go over and manage, it shows so much trust. I've been in meetings that if you're in a big corporate meeting and you have hundreds, totally understandable. But if you're in a small, intimate group, usually about 12 to 15 or less, it shows where you're at. We know there's times, hey, I got to go sneeze. Maybe I forgot I wasn't wearing pants or whatever the thing is. Hey, don't share your webcam. But as a general rule of thumb, you need to be pretending that we're in face-to-face going over and looking. That's what we're trying to go over and do each and every time. That's why we bought a better camera. And as my eyes are darting everywhere, so this is going to be my normative for a long time because I'm managing multiple things. And that's why I wear the headphones. But in general, when you're in those groups of intimate and not delivering an entire show and everything else, you want to use your webcam as much as you can. So recommendation, core teams, use your webcam. Bigger groups, you know, you can shut off occasionally because you don't want that Zoom fatigue. You don't want to be just like always like, I pay attention like 30,000 people. And then they look like zombies. And that's why Zoom fatigue is so exhausting, because you have one person face to face. It's almost like being a speaker, which I did for years. And that's a skill and an art compared to that. So you want to balance out using your webcam.
I think we should do this
one. All right. While we're going over and trying to keep time to go and keep you guys entertained. Oh, we're going to look at the comments real quick because we got lives. Let's see. Great to see you. That's great.
Aw, thank you.
Last time we got solicited, so this comment is fantastic.
Yay!
Thank you. If you got great products for veterans, hey, send me one in advance. But, you know, so great to see you. Thank you very much. So let's go jump into that next topic.
I will start this one. Time boundaries are super, super, super important. And I can speak to that as the spouse of an entrepreneur / military member, that there is so much time. I know that what he does is important, and I know the meetings he goes to are important, but there's a line that when you're always answering phone calls, when you're letting your work life trickle 8, 9, 10, 11 o'clock, taking a 190-minute meeting and it stretches for 5 hours. I mean,
it's actually
6-hour meeting. I mean, it's time that is stolen from your family. That's time that the kids are not getting, your spouse is not getting. Now, if that's agreed upon time and you're like, okay, this meeting is really important, there's fires to put out proverbially, then there's going to be needing to be understanding that, you know, especially if you're trying to build something, there's a lot of time investment there. But it's make sure that, you know, your spouse, your partner, who you're with is clear and understanding. So you don't have one partner, you know, going along, doing all they need to do for work and hustling. And then you got a spouse that's angry and feels slighted because they don't have you anymore. I mean, you can make all the money in the world, but if you lose your relationship because you mismanage your boardroom and make them too high of a priority because you don't put time boundaries on yourself, I mean, if you value your marriage, which that's our heart and goal for you guys, or whatever relationships you are in, you know, it's going to hurt your business, you know, if you mismanage it. So,
and you're not going to have that synergy.
I love kombucha. It's delicious.
Yep.
I love kombucha.
I just went over through that out there.
Yeah.
And I want to emphasize that not just for the bedroom, but also for the boardroom. So this is what happens if we don't go over. Let's check out another comment and we'll go right back. All right. Professionals live by a calendar. They schedule everything.
Absolutely.
Family time, work time, etc.
Because it will run you if you don't. If you just go running from thing to thing to thing and just start jumping at everybody else's things and everything is now urgent, everything is an emergency, you will have no time to do anything. And the most important things you have in your life with your kids, your spouse, your family is going to be left behind. And you're going to do all that and you come back, they may not be there anymore. I mean, you may not even know your spouse. I used to work, I'm a professional culinary artist. I've been French trained. And one of the reasons I don't work in restaurants is because I refuse to do an 18-hour day in a restaurant 7 days a week, working every single holiday, because I value my family. It's not worth a sacrifice to me. Would I get ahead in my career if I put that much time in? Yeah, of course I would. But what cost? I refuse. Wow. Are you drinking?
That's a green screen.
My kombucha?
No, the green screen goes over and jumps into the glass. That was fun.
That's fun.
So other thing to expand on that too is that marriage always most important from bedroom to boardroom. But in the boardroom, to balance out too, is for time bounds, how much time you're going to invest into an email. When does it need to be done? Does it need to be done now? Or does it need to be done later? When people are calling you.
Ooh, that's a good one. When the phone rings, do you pick up? Now, obviously, if it's the military, that's a no choice thing. Like, I remember the first time we took a cruise on our honeymoon. One of the best parts about that cruise was that he did not have to answer the phone. We were married for how many years when we took the cruise?
1,800 years.
We were not married for 1,800.
Okay, 1,800 days.
How many months is that? I'm not good at math, people. 4 years?
I'm not going to scare you guys on my numbers. I'm just having jokes with you. But long story short, 2006 did one in 2010 to 2011. So you can do the simple math. 2010 minus 2006 is
4 years. So yeah, so we went 4 years without him being able to put down the phone, because the military is, you have to answer the phone. So it was such a breath of fresh air when we took, yeah, One Thing by Gary Keller.
Yep.
I'll have to look that up. That sounds fantastic.
All right.
But on that cruise, he couldn't answer the phone, which was a blessing because I never had my husband able to deny a phone call or not be on the phone. Like, it's crazy.
One time I had 3 phones that I had to answer all at once.
Did have 3 phones.
But going back to last on the boardroom, because I want to balance this out because this is boardroom week, is that in the boardroom with the phone call also, you are at work, you are on call. What are you establishing your battle rhythm as? If you're always answering the calls and always answering the emails and always going to tyranny of the urgent, what is expectation of manager from you? Tyranny of the urgent. So recommendation is that you build yourself a matrix and figure out what is time sensitive and time boundaries. You might have a document that says, hey, it's due like in 30 days. If you know it takes you an average 3 days to do it prior, you can rack and stack that and not put it for now compared to something that's hot and whatnot. And you have to determine that for yourself also with your supervisor, what's hot, because if you just deal with everything that's hot, some things might take forever and you get the urgent done, but the important never happens. And then that important thing becomes urgent and you're just going from fire to fire. So it doesn't matter from the bedroom to the boardroom, time boundaries is most important.
And time boundaries is extremely important because no day is ever guaranteed. I mean, we all know
life.
No day is guaranteed. I mean, you can't guarantee that, I'm going to work on this project for this long and then I will invest into my family and then may never happen. I mean, usually when your life changes, it changes like this. And you don't usually plan for that. So you just got to, make sure you manage your time properly so you don't have those regrets later on.
I agree. So we got one more for you. And all of these are inspired by Google and globalsmart.com. So if you want to go look up those references, that's what gave us inspiration. We want to give credit where credit's due. So again, globalsmart.com is half our list, and also Google. And you can be searching Building Trust in a Virtual World. They were very much good blogs that we benchmarked off. So go over and read this in more context and everything else.
Experience too, but anyway.
Yes. So last thing is water cooler talk. Back in the day when we were physical and everything else.
When we actually went to work.
So for the military people, it was smoke breaks. It was going over and hanging out at the smoke pit or going over and going outside to take an air break.
Or making waddies at Axon and around the table full of people.
No, that wasn't water cooler talk.
Let's still talk around the table.
No, that's not.
It was still a good community.
It was, but water cooler talk was a time that when you pulled away from the desk and you just had those moments to connect with others. Hallway meetings is another one, connecting with people. We forget to do that in a virtual world. We do social media and do everything else and we're so engaged, but then we don't engage. So here's some recommendations on water cooler talk. At an end of a Zoom meeting, maybe you go send a message to someone privately in a Zoom meeting and say, hey, I'd love to go and connect with you on like a virtual latte. After this, you both get your lattes and your cups and go over and connect a little bit. Hey, you were talking something about real estate and that was interesting real quick. You had a sidebar. I'd love to go talk to you more. Or
VR too. That would be cool.
Virtual reality.
Yeah, we have Oculus, and like if somebody else were to have an Oculus, you can do mini golf. You can do virtual movies. You can do those things. There's a million ways to connect on VR with other people.
And you can punch in and punch out real quick. So if you have that 15-minute and you're doing it at home, you can go and say, hey, meet me in big screen or meet me here, to then go over and connect and to go over and to get that deeper collaboration. You might find out your next business partner, maybe your first or next marriage, or maybe even anything else that could be in those water cooler conversations, or things could have changed and transformed so much in the business if you had those conversations, because once something triggers, you find out, what? I never knew that. And then you go over and there's a project that you've been struggling for like 2 years and you find out. Here's my perfect example for me. I did a digital design degree by myself, online, asynchronous. This was like 10 years ago. And I worked on it by myself. My wife saw me work on it. I was tracing this car out.
I remember that.
And went over and did that.
You were dying on
3 hours it traced out, and I went over and then lost it. If I would have had a water cooler conversation with somebody else in the digital world, then I could have known. You could have used the lasso tool. The what? They're like, oh, it automatically sees the outline. It does the entire thing, and you just copy and paste, and it's done in 15 seconds. 3 hours of my life. After that, I was like, nope, digital design is not for me.
Not for you.
Not for me, because it was one of those things. I couldn't have those water cooler talks because it was an asynchronous virtual class, and it was all by myself and didn't have that. So definitely, you might find out degrees that you're struggling with, problems in life at work, or even problems at home, that wisdom might come out of that water cooler talk from the bedroom to the boardroom. So that's basically water cooler talk. Another way you can do it is a Facebook, seeing how a Facebook friend is going over and doing, and see where you guys are really at, because you might have a lot of digital frustration, and even just talking about it together might help you to be more productive in this digital world, because the train is going and it's becoming bullet train. If you ever been to like Europe and Asia, trains go really fast over there, and it's trucking along. So you got any last words, Wifey, before we go into a superhero challenge?
You pretty much covered it. I mean, we got all of our points in, most of them, and things have gone well.
All right. So our last thing that we do every single episode, which I don't think we did last week. So almost every single episode. So we're still learning to work together. So last week, if you didn't get your superhero challenge, you'll just have to go over and create one of your own. Is to choose a strategy, either this one or another, that you can go over and Google, because again, we don't own all the strategies in the world. Again, we want to give credit to Google and globalsmart.com for more of that reference. Is choose a strategy.
Choose a strategy.
You can finish it.
Choose a strategy to explore and see how your world goes.
Yeah, it might go over and change your life. You know, your next spouse or your next
spouse.
They might
having a next spouse.
Not me. No. Still deaf to us part. So she told me, like, what was it? This oldest woman that died at 114 or 115. The people in the census jacked that up. They're like, we're not sure if it's 114 or 115. No, it's like, no, 115, 116, they said. Even I jacked it up. But censuses jacked this up. So our goal is to be business partners till then. I'm cutting off at 105 if I get to choose. But strategies will be needed in this digital world, because we'll definitely be this old, wrinkly, and digitally. So definitely.
Did you say digitally?
Yeah, old, wrinkly, and digitally. I made up my own word, digitally.
Okay.
So we challenge you in going choosing a strategy. Last and certainly not least, if you are struggling in the boardroom or in the bedroom or in the living room, we'd love to go and connect with you. 20 minutes free for every military veteran and first responder. We'd love to go and connect and to go over and serve you. And if you're wanting to go get your message out there, we'd love to go and connect and serve you also through other avenues that we got, which we'll be launching shortly on a rebrand of a new business that's going to be also War Hero Superhero driven. So I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank for Wifey going over and joining. Also, that we learned a lot on green screen. So next
yes, because I attempted to wear. I sat down. I was wearing a green shirt, and my husband was like, "You gotta go change that, or the whole thing is gonna."
Yep. So next time, if you wanted us to wear green screen shirts, we'll just go over and do that. Yeah.
But then we're gonna be just floating heads.
We can do that. We should probably
put the green like mud masks on.
Oh yeah, and just have our lips and everything else. Oh boy. So our theme for May is making fun. So if you got any fun ideas to help us make fun on these videos, definitely go over and send them over. Again, always a conversation, never a monologue. You can go over and send comments like Yamil Cruz went over and sent. So just like, yes, if you want to connect, he can send comments. And if you want to, you can too. So we're going to punch this out. Thank you for going over and watching on Facebook or YouTube or Twitch now. We'll say goodbye to Periscope because you've been changing. So we loved you, but I guess you didn't like the world. So we'll say goodbye to that. And we want to say goodbye to all of you that go continually watch. Again, like, love, share, comment. Loves actually help us the most. Just so you know, if you can't go over and watch and subscribe and all that jazz, just hit a love. That helps a lot. So thank you all for joining, and we will see you on Wednesday in the clubhouse talking about, let me check real quick. That's the reason why I'm looking weird.
You write super small.
Strangers. Wow.
Strangers.
Not strangers. Strategies in digital networking. We're going to talk on how to actually digital network. So we're going to ask some questions, get people's thoughts and everything. We're trying to make an engaging conversation. If you want to help moderate, come on in. So that's pretty much it. We will check you later and another meeting to go. Thanks.